Visual Radio number 220. Visual Radio number 220 with a very special author of the book, The Poet in Exile. Somewhere in the studio is Ray Manzarek. That was beautiful, Ray.
Thank you, man. Thank you, thank you.
You made that old piano sound great.
Well, it's a nice little piano. All right.
The Poet in Exile, a brand new book from Ray Manzarek.
Yep.
It's great to have you writing books.
It's good to do it. It's a lot of fun. It's just like writing a movie script, except you expand it and you write everything. You know, a script is about 110 pages long, and The Poet in Exile is about 210. So, you know, I just described everything. You don't do that in a film script, but in a book you describe everything. But it's like a movie taking place before your very eyes. That's what I'm doing. I'm watching it, and I'm writing it all down as fast as I can.
To digress a little, the Love Her Madly film, did you have to sketch that out?
Oh, Love Her Madly, that's a movie I made, and will be out eventually, hopefully within the next 6 months or so on DVD. And it's a story, it's my first directorial feature film.
Really?
Except we shot it on digital, so it's not a film, it's a, you know, I don't know what it's called. It's a digital, but it's a movie, it's a digital movie. And it's a story of love, murder, and obsession on a college campus. 3 guys are all in love with the same girl and love her madly. She drives them all crazy. And it's young people and one teacher at a college of arts, and a murder is committed at the beginning. You don't know who the killer or the body is, or the victim, and then you see the unraveling, jump back 24 hours, tell the story of these 4 people, and at the end of the movie you find out who's the killer, and it's Hitchcock and who the body is. And it's hip-hop Hitchcock, a friend of mine said, because it's like, you know, it's got a lot of good music. I did a lot of electronic music to it. But did I have to sketch it out? I didn't do any sketches.
No.
I can't do that at all.
No, I meant like screenplay.
Well, I wrote the script, yeah. I wrote the script, sure, yeah. Absolutely, yeah. And that was, you know, I've written about a half dozen scripts, and so I thought I'd write a novel.
Well, this one lends itself well to making a digital or a film.
Hey, that's a possible, yeah. I mean, who knows? Maybe somebody will want to turn it into a movie. I don't know. It's, we'll see what happens. In Hollywood, in Los Angeles, everybody's got a movie going, you know, so, you know, who knows?
You know when you're at the barber shop and you see the mirror and then the mirror behind you?
Right.
And then you're kind of like looking into infinity.
Right.
This is kind of, I was wondering, is this a reflection of the past or is it a reflection of the present?
It's a good point. That's a good point, yes. It is a reflection of the past. There's a lot of things in there that are based on the truth, and there's a lot of things that are imaginations, you know, that are the other side of the mirror, you know. So, yeah, you're definitely looking back into my life and Jim's life, and but you're also seeing my projections. Basically, this book is my projection for Jim Morrison. He didn't get to live a full life. He was only, I mean, he lived a full life, but he only lasted 27 years, 27 and a half. Like kids say, you know, I'm 4 and a half. Jim was 27 and a half. That's all he put in on the planet. So I wanted to give him another 30, 40, 50 years on the planet. So that's what The Poet in Exile is all about. What would have happened to a rock star very much like Jim Morrison had he staged his death in Père Lachaise Cemetery? That coffin in not Père Lachaise, but a cemetery very much like Père Lachaise, is filled with 150 pounds of sand. What then happens to the poet, the lead singer of a notoriously famous rock and roll band? What happens to him in the next 30 years? That's the important part.
That Eddie and the Cruises movie, was that based loosely on the Doors?
I would think so, wouldn't you? I mean,
sure.
I never talked to anybody who made the movie, but yeah, I would, sure, you know, I mean, I think so.
The soundtrack was down around these parts.
Oh, of course.
Eva Brown.
Sure, sure. Yeah, right, exactly, exactly. That's a real, yeah, that's a real East Coast. I mean, that's you guys here, man, yeah.
And that was a strange phenomenon because the record, of course, hit after the movie hit TV.
Right, right, right,
didn't-
right.
Launch.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Very
we're here
good
to
stuff.
we're here to talk about.
The
you.
Poet in Exile.
If you wouldn't mind, I'd like to have you read a little later from the book.
Okay.
But there's lots of fun stuff to talk about. And where is the setting? I can't pronounce that.
Oh, the Seychelles, the Seychelles Islands. What happens is that the keyboard player of the band starts receiving, 25 years later, starts receiving little cryptic notes, poems actually, that say, and his name is Roy, curiously enough, it says Roy, blah, 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 J. And he realizes, the keyboard player realizes that this is the poet's handwriting, because Jim had a distinctive handwriting. I could recognize it anywhere. And he goes, my God, this is impossible. The man's dead. Then he looks at the envelope, and the envelope has a little stamp and a little cancellation mark from the Seychelles Islands. And the Seychelles Islands are in the middle of the Indian Ocean, the middle of nowhere, 1,000 miles due east of Mombasa, it says in the book, and that's where, in fact, they are. And Jim, this is based on truth. The reason I put him at the Seychelles Islands is because about a month before he left for Paris, we're working on L.A. Woman. And Jim said, out of the blue, he says, you know, like we're talking, he said, have you ever heard of the Seychelles? And I went, the seashells? He said, no, the Seychelles. I said, no, man, I haven't. And he pulls out this little brochure, and he said, check this out, man. Little group of islands in the Indian Ocean. And I look at this little brochure, and it's just gorgeous, absolutely beautiful, incredibly beautiful. Just a little bit off the equator and absolutely marvelous. And the people who live there consider the Seychelles to be the original site of the Garden of Eden.
Truly.
That's how nice it is.
Whoa.
So, you know, I'm looking at it saying, gee, this is really incredible, man. I said, where is it? He said, middle of the Indian Ocean. And he said, you know what? A man could disappear in a place like that. And I said, boy, he sure could, you know, in the middle of the Indian Ocean. I said, really cool, man. Let's get back to work. And that was all that was ever said. So when it came time to write the book, I thought, I remember the incident. I thought, yeah, the Seychelles Islands. What better place for the poet to go? Just the middle of the Indian Ocean. And that's where he goes after staging his own death. And then all the things that happened to him. Then it's a journey to the east, into the mystic, into the third eye. He goes into his enlightenment. He goes to find, he finds his own Buddha nature in India and the Seychelles Islands.
And he plays the game on Roy, too.
Well, of course,
Hedgerows,
yeah, you got to, sure, you know.
And when they reunite.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of fun in it, too, you know. There's little twists and turns that you wouldn't expect it to go.
Now, have you ever been there?
No, I haven't. No, but I've read a lot of brochures and, travel books and seen a couple of videos and whatnot. So, you know, it's in here. I mean, I know what it looks like.
Do you think you'll go?
Yes, as a matter of fact. Dorothy and I
Really?
came so close, man. We almost went there when we went to Paris on July 3rd for Jim's 30th anniversary of his death or disappearance. And we finished, we went to his grave, and a bunch of fans were there, and then we went to, we had a big thing in the evening where Danny Sugarman and I, you know, told stories about Jim. I played the piano, we showed some videos, we stayed for a couple of more days. Then we're going back to the airport to catch a flight to LA. We've got plenty of time to kill, like a good 2 hours, and we're walking down, you know, we have this gate, and there is a gate 2 away from ours that said, the Seychelles Islands.
Whoa.
And I thought, whoa, wait a minute, we've got tickets, we got two, this one's leaving in we can't, you know, I couldn't do it because we had to get back home, we had engagements, I had things I had to do back in Los Angeles, but I came that close to getting on the, you know, making that right-hand turn, getting on that plane and going to the Seychelles Islands. But I will someday.
Right. You've been so kind to me autographing, but
My pleasure.
when you do go there, could you get this autograph for me?
What a wise guy. Look, could I get this autograph for him?
The Lost Writings of Jim Morrison, Wilderness.
You know, somebody asked me yesterday, what does Jim think of the book?
It's a good question.
I said, well, he hasn't read it yet, you know.
A book that I think highly of is The Doors on the Road by the other Greg Shaw. There's Greg Shaw in California,
Right.
Burbank.
Right.
And then there's Greg Shaw in New York, The Doors on the Road.
Yeah.
It's great because it covers the post-Morrison Doors, which
And
I
that
love.
too. Yeah.
But it's got an error in here, and I told Greg about the error.
Oh,
It says that when you played the Boston Common
yeah.
August of 82, was it? Not 72,
No,
72?
72, yeah, 72.
I was 18 years old. It says that there's no recording. That's absolutely incorrect.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I was 18 years old standing out there with my little Radio Shack mic,
All right.
and I told Bruce Botnick that you guys will be getting a tape at some point.
Excellent. Oh, I'm excited. Yeah, that was great. We played with Dr. John. It was beautiful. Boston was just, well, the middle of summer. It was just incredible. What a great gig that was.
August 16, 72, Mac Rebenak opened for you.
That's Mac Rebenak.
Oh, he was brilliant, because I remember to this day, that was like 29 years ago, 30,
Yeah.
almost 30.
Yeah.
He had all this glitter in his pocket.
Right.
Remember?
Right.
He's sprinkling the audience with glitter.
Exactly.
It was the Night Tripper.
Right, a night tripper. Walk on gilded splinters. He did that at the Whiskey A Go-Go. We saw him. I went with Jim. Dorothy was there. Jim was there. Jim and I, Dorothy, maybe John and Robbie. I think maybe we all went to see Dr. John, the Night Tripper. And you're right. He comes out on stage and he's got this goofer dust powder. And the stuff's going like that all over the stage. And the whole thing is like swimming, and the drums are going, and the girls are singing. They're all wearing voodoo outfits. That was an incredible show in Boston. That was just fabulous.
Perfect opening for the Doors. Now, you would think Dr. John, with all the mysticism, would have had the cult that you guys have garnered.
Well, he didn't have hit records.
Right.
You know, he had, Mac had the, I'm doing it to my best friend's girl, or whatever, however that song.
I've been in the right place at the
You're
wrong
right
time.
place at the wrong time, yeah, right. And it's like,
But-
I don't get her, somebody else will, so it might as well be me, because I'm your friend. But for me, it was the Night Tripper, and that's a great album. The Night Tripper, I highly recommend that. That's voodoo, and that's New Orleans, and Walk on Gilded Splinters. What a great song. There's some really good stuff in that album.
We're creating a TV show with a friend of Dr. John's. Bobby Hebb wrote the song Sunny.
Yeah.
Well, he's a frequent guest and a good friend of ours.
Okay, great.
But we're doing his show out of here, and
Uh-huh.
hopefully Dr. John will be on too.
Oh, that'd be marvelous.
It would. There's so much stuff to cover. I want to talk about your solo records.
Sure.
In fact, I didn't know that Dick Wagner, who's in the Mark Farner book From Grand Funk to Grace, Dick produced Mark Farner, but he co-wrote the title track of The Whole Thing Started With Rock and Roll. Now it's out
That's
of control.
correct. That's Dick Wagner out of Detroit. Great guitar player, man. Absolutely great guy.
Wow.
And probably a direct descendant of Richard Wagner, you know.
You think so?
Richard Wagner,
Yeah.
Richard Wagner, Richard Wagner, you know, he probably is. I'm sure he is, you know.
How did you know Dick?
I met him through Iggy Pop, and
sure.
Iggy Pop and Danny Sugarman were good friends, and Iggy was a friend of Dick Wagner, so, you know, that's how we met. And then when it came time to do the solo album, I said, hey, Dick, come on, play guitar, man. And he's real good guitar player.
All jesting aside, I forgot to bring my Phantom Divine Comedy Part 1 album.
Yeah.
Is that Iggy Pop singing?
No,
It
it's a guy named the Phantom, and you know what? I can't remember his name. I met him, and you know, we got together a couple of times and just chit-chatted. I can't remember his name, but he told me, I never wear gold. You know, I was doing the Golden Scarab. He said, I don't wear gold,
Oh, okay.
Ray. I only wear silver. And I thought, fair enough, man. Okay. You know, you only wear silver. And he was all in black with silver. So, all right. That's all I remember of him. Tall guy, long hair, and, you know, nice cap.
Fun record.
Yeah.
Calm Before the Storm was a minor hit around here.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Patti Smith is on I Wake Up Screaming, correct?
Right.
Was this her first major label appearance?
Yes, right.
Wow, so...
Right. She's reading Jim Morrison poetry on that, exactly.
Which must have been a huge thrill for her. at
Oh,
that
I
point.
guess, you know, it was certainly fun for me, you know, especially when she came on with the, with her New Jersey accent. Woof. Well, that's a strong New Jersey accent that she's got. Good girl, real, and a great poet, of course, in her own right.
You know, as the Doors continued after Jim Morrison, I was still a big fan of that music.
Thank you.
And I felt if you guys had done these albums, even though it has the same feel,
Yeah.
I would have liked the Doors to have continued.
Well, you know what? It was time to close the doors on
Really?
the Doors. It was just that it was no longer the diamond. You know, it was a pyramid. It was only three-sided with the fourth member of the Doors, and it was a diamond. And I don't know. It just seemed like it was time to put the Doors to bed and close the doors like Abraham Lincoln. And now they are history. Clunk. close the doors.
But the beauty of the Bright Midnight series now.
Oh, well, we're not finished with our records. You know, John and Robbie and I finished back then making records together, but we may get together before the year is over to begin to make some new stuff.
Really?
Yeah. And a certain great poet that I worked with last night at the Middle Eastern right here in Boston, Jim Carroll, has got some great song lyrics, and Jim and I have worked on some songs together, so we may incorporate Jim Carroll's song lyrics into some Doors music. That could be a lot of fun.
Well, Jim Carroll has an interesting history because I think his first recorded appearance was on that Velvet Underground legitimate bootleg, live at Max's Kansas City. He's talking to Bridget Polk as she's recording the Velvet Underground. It's just kind of funny how it's all come full circle. You guys are now putting out all these very important tapes.
Yeah, on Bright Midnight. And Bright Midnight Records is basically for fans. It's a website. It's our own website record company, available on thedoors.com. Not Doors, but thedoors.com. And it's all the concert material that we have in the vaults, and all the other bootleg stuff and stuff that was recorded by people, and who knows, you know, the Doors on the Boston Commons might come out on Bright Midnight Records too.
Sounds pretty good.
All right.
I had a nice unique
And you know what?
direction on
If Bruce Botnick puts that stuff through Sonic Solutions,
Really?
you'd be surprised what he can do. I mean, some of the software for cleaning up the sound and just adding bottom, depth, and top to it. It's just amazing. So, you know, let's keep our fingers crossed that it's a pretty good performance. I'm looking forward to hearing it,
It's
too.
a great performance. You were doing material from, of course, Other Voices.
Yeah, yeah.
You sang Light My Fire, but
Right.
you had a nice, powerful band. And if you remember, the Boston audience is unforgettable. You know, they were there, they loved it, and it was summer thing. It was the end of the summer thing series.
Couldn't have been better. Couldn't have been better. Boston audience is one of the most insane audiences on planet Earth. They are so enthusiastic and so wild. You know, I love coming to the whole New England area and playing here. It's just absolutely great.
Can we talk about the recording of Other Voices?
Sure.
You don't have a lead singer, and now you go in and start recording again. But the Doors had L.A. Woman. You were recording without Jim anyways, correct?
Well, sometimes we'd record. I mean, we'd know how the song was going to go, so I would do guide vocals, or what's called a work vocal. And even when Jim was there, when we were playing to get the tracks, Jim would do a work vocal. It wasn't like the master. He'd be in his little sound booth. They always have an isolation room for the lead singer. And sometimes he would get a master take, but for the most part, he'd kind of hold back a little bit and do a guide vocal for us. So I did that when we were recording, so it was like nothing new, you know, do the guide vocal, and once again on Full Circle and Other Voices.
How'd you come up with Tightrope Ride?
Boy, that's a good question. Who knows where songs come from?
That's a great,
Thank you. Yeah, I think so too.
It was a Boston hit.
Yeah, oh, was it?
Yeah,
Good,
it was
good,
getting
good,
played
good,
here.
Good, good. Jack Conrad plays absolutely magnificent bass, and you hear the bass on Tightrope Ride from Other Voices. It's like, he's just all over the place, an incredible bass playing. And it's basically a song about existentialism is what it's about. It's riding a tightrope from the mud to the sun, going on that cosmic journey, which is what the poet in exile also does. That's what my book is all about, that cosmic journey, the poet coming out of the mud and just riding all the way up and becoming one with the light of the sun. And that's what a tightrope ride's all about. Yeah, and that's what life is all about. Life is like, it's like riding a tightrope, you know? It's like you got your balance on the thing. You better get your balance, the words say. You're gonna lose the way, just feel it. You gotta feel, and you feel life, and you feel the energy of existence and the joy of existence, and it becomes not a difficult tightrope walk, but a tightrope ride. You can ride that thing. It's like surfing, you know, except you're riding and the void is here and the heavens are there, and you're just barreling right on that tightrope. Just the energy of the sun is just sucking you right up into it, and that's what Tightrope Ride's all about.
It's such a cool song.
Yeah, thank you, thank you.
I go on eBay quite often, and there's a lot of Ray Manzarek stuff. It's expensive to be a fan of yours. The Poet in Exile book, which is brand new, people, it's like there are copies from California autographed already on eBay.
Oh, right. I mean, that, I was just doing it a couple of weeks ago, you know, so that's fast.
It's real fast, and it's expensive, my God. But this Carmina Burana,
Carmina Burana.
She's here.
There are very few of those. Carmina Burana is a record I made with Philip Glass from New York, a classical composer. And it's a sort of a rock, I don't know, it's a contemporary rock version of Carl Orff's magnificent song cycle. Carl Orff is a classical composer from Germany, and he wrote it all, and the premiere took place in 1936, 37. And it's Gregorian chants and monks and renegade. They found manuscripts from like renegade monks from monasteries, 13th, 14th century. And he set some of those to music in the 30s. What I did, and with great choral work and everything, it's really big and bold, and the first piece is very familiar. It's used in many, many movies, Excalibur and many other movies. So I set the whole thing to a electronic, drums, guitar, keyboards, Philip Glass's wonderful linear things that he does, repetitive, minimalist music, and brought a chorus in. So we've got this, you know, jazz, rock, classical combination, and Carmina Burana. It's a rare album. It's hard to find, but it's really good stuff. My father loved it, so I felt I did well. You know, my father said, "I love this album, Ray." I said, "All right, Dad, thanks a lot."
the toughest critic.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Your own mother and father. You know, if they like what you're doing, wow, what a compliment.
Now, with the Bright Midnight label, would you think Carmina Burana would come out on that?
Well, technically, Carmina Burana is owned by Mercury, and whoever Mercury Records was sold to.
Universal now, Seagram's.
Okay, so yeah, see, so you can't. I mean, they own it, so you can't just bring it out. You'd have to do get their permission and do a sub-licensing, whereas the Doors stuff that we're bringing out, that belongs to the Doors, so we can bring out we can just bring it right out. We don't have to ask anybody's permission. Hello, sir, do you mind, you know, it's like, do you mind to go with your hat in your hand? Would you bring out my record? I mean, you don't even have to do it. We'll do it over on our own little website, so, you know, who knows? I have no idea.
I want all our fans out there of this show to write to aMckay@umusic.com and demand Carmina Burana.
Yeah, well, let's get it on.
Andy, put it out.
Yeah, let's get it on CD. I mean, there's only a few of them, and they're very hard to find. So it'd be nice to get a release of it so people could hear it. I think they'd really enjoy it.
We do something that we've been doing for years called the demo that got the deal. And we always ask the artist, what was the demo that got the band signed?
Well, the Doors demo is available on the Doors box set. You can hear about 3 or 4 of the songs from the actual Doors demo. We, Jim and I and John Densmore, Robbie Krieger hadn't even gotten into the band yet. My 2 brothers, brother Rick of Rick and the Ravens on guitar, my brother Jim Manzarek on harp, playing real nice harp, and an unidentified girl bass player. I don't know who the girl was, but she was brought in by World Pacific Records, and we had a demo. So we went into World Pacific, and that's the record label that Dick Bach, a West Coast jazz cat who produced all of the Jerry Mulligan and Chet Baker. He did some Ravi Shankar, the whole 50s cool school of West Coast jazz. That was all his production. I had signed, Rick and the Ravens, my brother's surf band, had signed a 3-single deal with Aura Records, a subsidiary of World Pacific. We recorded 2 songs, or two discs, two 45s, and Rick and the Ravens had broken up by then, and the guys went this way and that way, and we had 1 more to go. So I went to Dick Bach and I said, and I got friendly with him because he's very Indian, he's oriented to Indian mysticism. So we talked about that, and I said, listen, we got 1 more thing to do rather than, you know, force you guys to make a record and put it out and everything. I've got this new band together, it's called The Doors. Can I use the time to make a demo? And he said, sure, man, take a 6-hour day and go ahead and record the stuff. And I said, we don't have a bass player, though. He said, I'll get you a bass player, and he got some girl to come in. A very good guy. So that's where we recorded, right at World Pacific Studio, where Ravi Shankar had recorded, Jerry Mulligan, Chet Baker, Shelly Manne, all those 50s cool cats, all recorded there. We recorded the Doors demo right there. There's a Moonlight Drive and Summer's Almost Gone, My Eyes Have Seen You, a couple of other things are on there. And it's a combination of the Doors and Rick and the Ravens, and that's what we walked the street with, a 12-inch with 6 songs on it. And we went from label to label, knock, 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 hi, we're a band called the Doors. And the what? They can't remember this in 1966. We play kind of psychedelic music. Would you play our record? And some would play it. Most people wouldn't. They said, get out of here. We're not even going to play it. We don't take stuff off the street. Some guys played it and just said, nah, nothing here. One guy, I'll never forget this, man. Lou Adler, too. Lou Adler is like a real big producer. He had the Mamas and Papas.
Absolutely.
So we're in his office, Dorothy and I and Jim, puts the LP on, and he goes, picks up the tone arm, goes, yeah, hello, I love you. Listen, I knew we were in good shape because he listened to that one for like 20 seconds rather than the 10 seconds he gave everything else. That one he listened, hello, I love you, won't you tell me your name? He kind of bopped a little bit, put on the next one. And the last one was once I had a little game. It was like, I used to crawl back in my brain. I think you know the game I mean the game called Go Insane. He took it off and he said, no, gave me the record back. He said, no, not for me. There's nothing here I can use. That was his line. There's nothing here I can use. Jim Morrison stood up and said, well, that's real cool, man, because I'll tell you what, we don't want to be used anyway. And we walked out the door, and, that hardly ever spoke to Lou Adler ever again.
That is funny.
That's the demo. And eventually Jack Holtzman heard the demo and signed us to Elektra Records. So.
And Elektra was, at that point, a folk label?
Yeah, out of the East Coast, a New York label. No one in L.A. would sign the Doors. We couldn't get signed by anyone in Los Angeles, because at the time, the whole sound was the Byrds, and you had to have or you had to have a sort of a San Francisco. The Beau Brummels were big. They would, and they wanted hits like that. And instead, the Doors are doing some sort of jazz rock psychedelic with weird lyrics, and they wanted guitars playing cover versions of Bob Dylan songs or something like the Byrds did so wonderfully. And we couldn't get signed, but Holtzman heard it from New York. And you're right, it was a folk label. Then they went to, they had Paul Butterfield's blues band, had a little success with that. Then they had Love, and had much bigger success with that, and they were looking for another West Coast band. Jack Holtzman came out to Los Angeles to hear Love, who was the headliners at the Whiskey A Go-Go, and we were the opening act. And that's how it happened. That's how we got signed.
Whoa, that's great.
Yeah, Arthur Lee and Love, man, what a great band they were, too.
Oh, yeah.
And Arthur's just got out of jail. He was in jail for a long time for this, that, and the other thing, discharging firearms, putting things up his nose, talcum powders and stuff, anything he could.
Arthur's sitting on a very nice, The Everlasting First. I think there was a lot of Jimi Hendrix, Love recordings.
Oh, wow.
It's on one of those albums by Love. There's The Everlasting First, and Jimmy's on it, but I think they did an extended taping.
Oh, boy.
And Arthur has that, so.
Hopefully that'll be coming out soon. That'll be great.
I love rediscovering all this stuff. When
Yeah.
you guys put all this out again.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, well, that's what Bright Midnight is for. It's a lot of fans said, see, what we did is Absolutely Live is the album Absolutely Live is a condensation of like 6, 7 different concert recordings. And we take a song from New York and a song from Los Angeles, a song from Detroit, here and there, and we put them all together to make a 2 LP set called Absolutely Live. And the fans know that we recorded all of the Aquarius Theater, and we used 1 song. All of Detroit, and used 1 or 2 songs. New York, 3 or 4 sets in New York. So what we're doing is we're bringing out all of the entire first set, the entire second set. Coming out very soon will be the entire second set of the Aquarius Theater in Los Angeles, the first and the second set. And then also available to the public will be the best of the Aquarius Theater recording. But that's going to be released in Europe, won't be in the States for another 6 months. So that's what Bright Midnight Records is, and all of the great tape recordings that people in the audience, we've got Miami. We got 45 minutes of Miami. You can hear Jim and the audience drunk as a skunk and totally out of control, but what a crazy concert it is. Miami was definitely a weird thing. So we'll be bringing that out too.
Now in Boston, there was it was called the Arena, and I was a little too young at the time. I was 15. It's back near the Christian Science Church. I think there was a riot or something that night. Urban legend around here.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and the cops pulled the plug. This concert's over with. They just,
Really?
Yeah, they're like, shut it down, you know. You pull the great power things.
Wow.
Lights going, sound went off, and, you know, and sort of the house lights came on, and spotlights went off, and it was just like, it was chaos. I mean, it was chaos in Boston. Well, after playing last night, I can understand why. You know, we had maybe 400 people, and we were singing Doors songs. I'm playing, and they're singing. That's a rowdy bunch.
That is at the Middle East.
Yeah, I mean,
Central
so
Square.
you take that crowd and fuel them with God knows what, and put a lot of them into the arena or the garden, and you pull the cops pull the plug, they ain't gonna stand for it. Hey, we want more, and yeah, there was a whole riot, man. Big riot.
Now, that's a little different from the Michael McClure stuff you do.
Well, that's a chamber. That's an evening of chamber music, of drawing room. We're in a drawing room, and a poet is reciting his poetry, and a keyboard player is playing his poetry. It's very exciting.
It's wonderful. I started at Night Stage, the old Night Stage
All
in
right,
Cambridge.
good. Yeah, it's very dynamic. It's we do some very beautiful things. We do some very passionate things, but nonetheless, it's still within the realm of. I mean, it could have been performed. What we do could have been done 400 years ago. Mm-hmm. You know, a keyboard, a cembalon, a harpsichord, or something, or a little old-fashioned, old-time piano, and a poet. So basically, we're just carrying on the tradition of acoustic and music and poetry.
Now, will you be doing more work with Michael?
Oh yeah, sure.
Oh, great.
Yeah. We'll be in San Francisco at the end of March, and we're having a record release for a little CD that we did independently released, and we'll be playing together in San Francisco again.
What's that called?
It's called There's a Word. There's a Word. And it was recorded at a great place. It's a church. It's called the Noe Valley Ministry. Church on Sunday, performance space on Friday and Saturday. It's an old church. You know, this is not old for you guys, but old for us. Maybe 50, 60, 75, maybe even 100 years old. Wow. So we think of that as being very old. But it's all wooden inside. And there's a little stage there. The altar is on a stage. And the acoustics are just great. So Michael and I have played a couple of gigs there, and one of them we recorded. And There's a Word. McClure and Manzarek will be out, you know, and end of March.
How'd you record it? With?
Off the board.
Oh, okay, cool.
Off the board.
Very cool.
Yeah, right off the board. And so anyway, it sounds great. We got a flute player playing with us and doing some Japanese haikus, and he's playing Japanese shakuhachi flute style, and I'm playing koto style on the piano. So that was a lot of fun. Real nice album. Very tranquil. Very mystical.
For people out there, Michael McClure has a big hit record with Janis Joplin.
That's right.
And it was produced by your producer,
Oh yeah?
Paul Rothschild.
That's right. There you go.
The Pearl album.
That's right.
I was in Los Angeles.
Oh, Lord, won't you buy me a Mercedes-Benz? That's Michael's words.
I remember being out in Los Angeles 1986, and with the late Jimmy Miller, he produced the Stones.
Uh-huh.
And we did a lot of work together, and I said, you know, we've got Paul Rothschild's number. I'm a huge Doors fan. I've got to say hi to him. So Jimmy called him up and said, Paul, will you talk to my friend Joe? I got to talk to Rothschild.
Good. Great guy, man. Very knowledgeable, very intelligent, very astute, excellent sound, excellent producer, excellent sound manipulator. Gone.
It's
59.
That's
59.
so young.
Smoking cigarettes, lung cancer.
Oh, wow.
Lay off the cigarettes, you know, folks. Lay off the cigarettes. Don't smoke too much.
To hear that just shocked me.
Yeah, it's terrible. He was going to have, oh, what a tragedy. He was going to have a 60th birthday party. And he said, you come to my 60th birthday party, Ray? I said, well, you know, what are you going to do? He said, I'm laying out a full spread and the best wine I can get. And Rothschild knew his wine and knew his food. And I said, well, I'm there, man. This is going to be incredible. 2 months before that party, off to heaven. Off to the big rock and roll bar up in the sky. Wow. It's like the big Hard Rock Cafe up there. Jim's up there, and Janis, and Jimi Hendrix, and Brian Jones, and Kurt Cobain. They got a great band, great bunch of singers. Jim and Janis singing, and Jimmy's on guitar, and Kurt's on guitar. Brian Jones is on guitar. good drummers. John Bonham is on drums, and
Keith Moon.
Keith Moon's on drums. Can you imagine those two guys? Holy! And Rothschild's up there producing. You know, so he's making all the moves on the knobs and everything. So that's a terrific bar in the rock and roll heaven that if we want to, we could all go to someday. You know, I mean, I believe you get your choice. You know, and I'm debating as to whether or not I want to merge into the energy of the sun when I finally leave the planet, or do I want to go to that rock and roll bar in the sky where it's a jam session every night. I think I'm going to go for that one.
Bruce Botnick, of course, engineered the material.
Rothschild and Botnick were just amazing. You're right. Botnick was the engineer for the Doors on every Doors record, and we're still working together on a Bright Midnight record. So
he's the producer now.
Yeah, he's the producer of it and the engineer. He's the only one who knows how to twirl the knobs. And I saw Bruce just a couple of weeks ago, and we're working on the stuff for the Aquarius Theater, Bright Midnight Aquarius Theater presentations. And he's a genius. So between Rothschild and Botnick, when we'd go into the studio, there were 6 Doors. The 4 Doors making the music, 2 other guys running the control room, making the record, and that's Paul Rothschild and Bruce Botnick. So
what a team.
Yeah, it was. I mean, we made virtually every record together except L.A. Woman, and then we did that one with Bruce at our at the Doors rehearsal studio, Doors workshop.
How big was that Doors workshop?
Small. You know,
it's such a great sounding record.
Well, of course, why not? You know, I mean, that's Botnick. You know, he baffled. I mean, it's like a third the size of where we are here. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's a small little room. It's a long rectangular room. The room was so small, we didn't even have a vocal booth for Jim. We had to put Jim in the bathroom. Jim sings from the bathroom.
I have the original
that is
Risque cover.
That's the one. Right. Right, the crucified lady. Yeah.
On the telephone.
Yeah, right.
Oh,
a naked lady crucified. That's women crucified by modern society.
Oh, really?
Sure. That's what it is, you know. I mean, a woman representing the female aspect of Jesus Christ and
oh,
things
really?
Like that. Sure, yeah. Of course.
And the beauty of this original Doors L.A. Woman album was the doors themselves are on cellophane?
Yeah, it's a celluloid kind of thing, right?
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's very cool. They stopped doing that one immediately because it cost them too much to do it. But if you can find one of these, they're very rare and
oh,
very,
really?
Oh, yeah, very collectible.
I was like 17 at the time. I had bought it immediately.
Perfect.
We used to play it into the ground at the house.
Yeah, it's a great sounding record. Well, Bruce baffled everything off, as it's called. You know, you'd have the amplifier, you put a mic up, and you put this little tunnel around the front of it, and keep the sound of that one and the sound of that one separated so they don't bleed into each other. With Jim Morrison in the bathroom with the vocal mic, earphones, listening to the mix and singing into the vocal mic in the downstairs bathroom. That Doors rehearsal studio is now an Italian restaurant on the corner of La Cienega and Santa Monica. You can go and have good Italian food at La Cienega and Santa Monica, and you can go to the bathroom and stand in there. That's the exact bathroom where Jim Morrison sang, and you can knock out Riders on the Storm if you feel like it while you're taking a whizzer.
Your Love Her Madly movie.
Mm-hmm.
How is that going to be distributed? How can we see it?
It'll be on DVD, and it'll probably be with somebody called Eagle Rock Distribution, and it'll be available in the video stores, in the DVD stores.
Oh, so it's going right to the store?
Yeah, right.
Oh, that's
right.
great.
Mm-hmm.
You've been involved in some of these Doors specials on TV, correct?
Yeah, of course. Yes.
And that stuff's always fun.
Yeah.
Recently, we had Wayne Wadhams on. Wayne Wadhams, of course, the Ding Dong, the Witch is Dead, the Fifth Estate from Connecticut. And he's a record producer. He does jazz on Columbia Records. But he wrote this book, Inside the Hits, and he took Light My Fire. And he does a long essay dissecting the tune.
I'm looking forward to reading it. It's very good. When did it come out?
It just came out.
All right, good. Inside the Hits, and that's how it looks.
Light My Fire. As I'm driving to the station today, I have 105.7 on, and Julie Devereaux interviewed you in the morning. She's going to broadcast. It's
very cool.
It's neat driving around and hearing the Doors today. What I'd like to ask, if you wouldn't mind, would you mind reading some of Poet in Exile?
No, not at all, man. Not at all. I'm not real good at it because it's writing. It ain't reading.
Oh, but there's just such great stuff in here. I was going to pick something up, but I think I should let you.
Well, darn, I wish you would have picked something out. I don't know what the hell. What'd you have in mind? What do you think we could do?
Okay, I know. There's if you don't mind, because I don't want to reveal too much of the book, but
Yeah.
it's kind of interesting that part where.
Well, it says at the beginning his eyes had gotten kinder. Kindness came finally to the better ones. There was less self-interest, less fear, less competitive gamesmanship. And that's by Charles Bukowski.
And what is that, Hollywood?
Hollywood's a book that Charles Bukowski writes about making the movie Barfly and being involved with the people in Hollywood. That's a kind of it's a pretty funny book. Well, as we sit here looking through the book, I have no idea what to read here. I had nothing prepared.
I wanted to do the part with the skateboarders, but I don't know if that's too revealing.
Ooh, that's kind of revealing. But let me
Okay, we
read this
won't do
first
that.
part to you. I'll give you an idea of what the book is all about. I received the first letter from the poet a little over 6 months ago. I knew it was from him, but that was impossible. He was dead. He was buried in Paris in the 1970s in one of those charming Jules and Jim, tree-lined, flower-bedecked, mausoleum-encrusted cemeteries so favored by artists, poets, composers, stray cats, and romantically obsessed young girls. He was buried in a simple mourning ceremony, attended by only 5 people: his mistress, 2 French friends, his manager, and his secretary. The manager reported a sealed coffin. He never saw the body. The secretary merely attended the funeral and then drifted on to other lives. The mistress retreated into heroin and died of an overdose 3 years after the poet's death. Only the 2 French friends knew the truth, and they weren't talking. Not to the press, not to me, not to anyone. Could the rumors of 150 pounds of sand in a sealed coffin be true? A coffin said to be sealed for the sake of propriety? And what of the Algerian doctor? His signature on the death certificate is said to have been purchased for 5,000 American, a not insubstantial sum in 1970s money. Could it be true? The death certificate says his heart stopped, nothing more. No cause of death, no suspicion of foul play, no death by misadventure, no trauma, no autopsy, nothing. His heart finally simply stopped. However, given his excessive lifestyle, the drinking, the drugs, the women, and the toll it took on his physical condition, it did seem as if the final payment had come due. Or was it a hoax? And that is what this book is all about.
That's the best part for you to read. That's awesome.
That's what you're going to find out. Or was it a hoax?
Wow.
And, hey, it was a hoax.
Excellent, Roy.
All right.
Do you get to play Roy in the movie?
Yeah, no. Well, you know what? Maybe I would. Yeah, I guess it would have to be about a guy my age going to see somebody about Jim's age. Jim was like 5 years younger than I am. So, yeah, well, that'd be interesting, wouldn't it? Who knows? I mean, we'll wait for the movie.
Our show's winding down. We do an hour.
Yeah.
Record production, you did X.
Yes, I did X. That was great. 4 albums with X, too.
That's a lot of work.
Los Angeles and Wild Gift and Under the Big Black Sun and More Fun in the New World. The X is one of the best punk rock bands. They are the best. America has never produced a better punk rock band than X. They are so hard and so fast. Billy Zoom is just one of the undiscovered great guitar players on planet Earth. He's just absolutely brilliant. Don Bonebrake on drums, playing that marching snare. The snare, snare is about like this. He's playing one that's like this, and he's going crack. When I first saw them play, and John Doe and Exene are the poets and the songwriters and the singers, and that's just a brilliant band. Absolutely, absolutely great. If you haven't heard X, folks, check out X and get the album Los Angeles. It's just brilliant.
And do you think you're going to do more?
No time.
Really?
I got to write a novel, more books. I'm working on a electronic album of solo keyboards and drum machines and all of that, doing trip hop, acid jazz, trance, electronica. I'm going to do an electronica
Oh, very
keyboard
cool.
album. That should be out in the next 6 months. So I'm doing that. I'm going to get to work on a new novel. John and Robbie and I are going to get together and see whether or not we can come up with some new songs and stuff with the Jim Carroll lyrics. So We're busy. It's a busy time.
Sure, Stoned Immaculate's an awesome project.
That's what we were talking about. That's what got us thinking about maybe going back on the road again. You know, because we did it. The record was made, then we did it on VH1, and with all those different singers on VH1, the storytellers. And we thought, you know what, we could take this thing on the road, man. So, I mean, if all goes right and everybody's schedule will allow for it, and the three fates will allow for it, and they're making, and you'll read about the three fates in the Poet in Exile, and you'll understand who those three sisters are. If they have planned it for us, then it might happen by the end of the year.
When I do my radio show, I also play the Ghost song quite a bit.
Ah, cool.
I don't know why classic hit stations don't jump on something like the Ghost song.
Well, technically it wasn't a hit, because they can only play the hits. See, on a classic station,
Right.
if I hear a song that's not a hit, here's their assumption. Turn it off. Whoop, you're going to press the dial and turn it off. It's got to be a hit. It's got to be a recognizable hit. So the Ghost song was not technically, it's not a top 40 hit. So they only play top 40 hits. It's top 40 radio, except from the past, you know. Thank God the songs were good in the past. Otherwise, you'd be listening to the Naval Girls and the Five Boys, that stuff.
But with all this great material you're unleashing on the world, wouldn't it be smart for these stations to start playing even live versions of, play the end? Everyone knows the end. Everyone loves the end.
But that recording is not a hit. No, this is not up to the DJs. Oh, the DJs are dying. I mean, I talk to DJs in LA. They're going, God, our format is about that wide. It's got to have been a recorded hit. Can't be a live version. Maybe one late at night between 2 and 4 a.m. you could get away with that. But boy, in the daytime, you've got to have just the recorded hit, and that's all they'll allow them to play. You know why? Because the commercial sponsors. The sponsors say, play the hits. We're paying for it, you play the hits.
Interesting. But you saw the reaction last night to what you're doing.
Oh my God, that was phenomenal.
The audience wants to hear it. The DJs want to hear it.
Yeah, I know. The people want to hear it, the DJs want to hear it. There's somebody called the middleman. There's the DJs and the artists. There's the people. In between are the middlemen. They're the ones who are controlling what comes from here and what goes to the people. There's a huge wall there, and it's called industry, it's called advertising, it's called money, and that's exactly what we were fighting in the 60s. Break that wall down. Let's get the artist in almost direct access to the people. Let's stop the control of the networks and the corporations, because what are they in it for? Money. That's all.
And you're doing art.
Well, we're trying to do art. I don't know that we're doing it, but we're giving it a damn good shot. We're going for it. And we're not doing entertainment. See, that's the networks, the radio stations, advertise. Everybody wants to do entertainment so that you don't think. You do not. Here's what America will not allow you to do. Industry will not allow you to open the doors of perception. And you must open the doors of perception. That brings us back to the Poet in Exile, The Doors. Where does the name come from? The doors of perception. You must open the doors of perception. Otherwise, you're not a free man, a free woman on planet Earth. Otherwise, you're a slave. And that's hell. That's hell, man. Being a slave is hell. Being free is like, wow. What an incredible world it could be. It's the Garden of Eden. All we have to do is reclaim it. It's ours. We are the people. We, the people of this great American nation, belongs to us. The Garden of Eden is ours. We just have to reclaim it.
So you're in the studio recording, and Jim Morrison shows you this little brochure
Of
for
the
these
Seychelles
islands.
Islands.
Not only did he have the legal hassles in Florida, and the pressures from the record label, and you would, of course, come to the end of your contract,
Yeah.
which is very telling, but you also have these things that shouldn't belong in art
Right.
weighing on Jim
Yeah.
and you.
Yeah.
Do you think that gave him an idea to just like, I can't deal?
Well, you know what? He went to Paris, didn't he?
Yes.
And who knows, had he stuck around a little bit longer, where he might have gone after Paris. He might have definitely gone to the Seychelles. Except John called Jim, and like the end of May, 6 weeks before Jim died, and Jim said, how's L.A. Woman doing? And John said, L.A. Woman's doing great, man. It's racing up the charts. Love Her Madly is a hit. The critics are saying the Doors are back with all their power and passion. And Jim said, all right, man. And, well, he said, I'm getting itchy to sing again. And John said, listen, Ray and I and Robbie have been talking, why don't we take the whole thing on the road with Jerry Sheff, the bass player who played on L.A. Woman, and Mark Benno, the rhythm guitar player, and go out and do L.A. Woman just like we did it in the recording studio in Morrison. Said, what a great idea, man. We'll all go out. It'll be like the 6 of us like we recorded. That's how we recorded the album. Very few overdubs on it. Virtually all live recording on L.A. Woman. And Jim was very excited about it, and John said, well, we're excited too, man. When do you want to do it? And Jim said, as soon as I get back. And John said, all right, man, well, when you coming back? Jim said, I don't know. I'm having a real good time over here, and man, I can't say, but you know, when I get back, let's go on the road, man. I'm getting itchy to do some songs. And that was the last time any of us ever spoke to Jim Morrison. 6 months, 6 weeks. 6 weeks later, he was gone.
Wow. Mark Benno, was that the dude from Asylum Choir?
Exactly.
Interesting. So you had a nice array of people.
You know, Jerry Sheff became Elvis Presley's bass player. Jerry Sheff was waiting for Jim to come back so we could go on the road, because he was all excited. Oh, we're going to go on the road and do this. I'm going to play with the Doors live. This is great. And all of a sudden we had to say, guess what, man? It ain't happening, because Jim's not only not coming back in the next couple of weeks, Jim Morrison is never coming back. And Jerry Sheff said, oh, I guess I got to go get another gig, huh? I said, well, you know, we're not going on the road, man. Jerry Sheff went off, and Elvis Presley was looking for a bass player right at that very time. And then Jerry called us a couple of weeks later and said, I got a gig, guys. And we said, who? Who are you playing with? He said, Elvis Presley. So anytime you see... Huh?
2 kings.
Everything.
The Lizard King.
He went from the Lizard King to the King. You're right. I didn't even think of that. The King and the Lizard King. So anytime you see an Elvis video or one of those movies of Elvis in Vegas, that bass player, that's the Doors bass player from L.A. Woman. That's Jerry Sheff playing on all of them.
Very cool. We're going to have to get you to a radio interview.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you're doing a signing?
Signing tonight. That's right.
At the Booksmith?
Booksmith in Brookline.
We taped Margaret's show there. So my final question will be, have you ever read Keith's Secret and Suppressed?
No.
Do you know of it?
No.
There's a book called Secret and Suppressed, and we did a special on it 5 years ago, and it talks about all the reasons why Jim Morrison's still alive.
Ah.
But the author was mysteriously died.
Whoa.
There's a lot of, it's not just Jim Morrison, it's a lot of stuff about the CIA and the FBI.
Okay.
And this guy, I think his name's Jim Keith. I've got to go on the web and search for him. But
excellent.
A co-host of mine, Tontaleo, read the book with JoJo Lane, Denny Lane's ex-wife from Wings.
Okay, sure.
She knew Jim.
Right.
I don't know if you remember her from
Right.
the Boston days.
Yeah.
And,
Very cool.
JoJo's son's now our cameraman. Not here today, but...
Full circle. It's all going full circle, huh?
It was such a pleasure to have you here.
All right. Good, Joe. Thank you so much.
And you know, I hope this does really well.
Well, let's keep our fingers crossed. It's a good read. It's not thick. You can read it real quick, and you'll have a good time with it.
You can, and it is a lot of fun. It's Visual Radio number 220 with Ray Manzarek. What a pleasure to have you here.
All right. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye. Good to talk to y'all.
One of my favorite songs is Tightrope Ride from Other Voices.
Excellent, thanks.
And I saw you guys play on 1972 on Boston Common.
I remember.
It was a great show.
Yeah. Morrison Doors.
Yes. Will those 2 albums see the light of day on CD?
Yeah, they will.
Really?
The box set is going to be when? Christmas '97. It's a big project. You know, you put in everything you got practically. So there'll be 1 CD of Other Voices in full circle. I don't know if we can get all the songs on there, but we're going to get 90% of them on there. So that will be exciting.
Oh, they're really great albums. I was sorry to see that you gentlemen didn't continue to put records out.
Well, we continued because we didn't want to lose the musical synchronicity that we developed over the years, and we had the sense not to get another singer, because who could fill Jim's shoes?
Exactly.
So Ray and Robbie tried to sing, and you know, after a couple albums, we we realized that musically it was great, but without our focal point, we closed the door.
Huh. So to speak. Have you seen the Doors Collector magazine?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I like that a lot.
Is it good?
I think they do a good job
Uh-huh.
researching and talking to Jack Halsman and people
Oh, good. Yeah.
involved. It says that you're an actor. You're working.
Well, I stumbled into acting class after the Doors' big peak, and I found out I was as nervous for 12 students as 20,000 people at Madison Square Garden. So I thought this would be really good for me because, the downside of a big peak like that is some people can't handle it. And so the acting led to writing, and then I wrote my book, and I'm working on a novel. So I'm not so interested in acting, although I had this wonderful teacher who just about every famous star in Hollywood studied with. And so I got a glimpse into the acting process, and I used some of it. And so that was a good learning experience. I'm not pursuing an acting career, though.
Okay. Can you tell us a little about your upcoming book?
Oh, boy. Well, it's fiction. But, God, getting an overview of 300 pages is really difficult.
Well, is it science fiction or...
No. You write what you know.
Okay.
So it's based on the 60s somewhat. But, I'll know in a few years. If you want an overview of your project, you spend several days reading stuff you're kind of tired of. Whereas music, you spend 3 minutes playing the song you're working on. It's easier to... But I got a story I want to tell, and I fell into this book writing, and my autobiography did very well. First I thought, I can't face another 300 pages, so if I'd write a script, which is only 100, then all my writer friends said, well, they just, movies, they change the words, you lose all control. And I think I could get a book deal, so I'm doing another 300.
So when you're inspired, do you just sit down and just start typing away?
Well, it's not as easy as... I work on an outline, a story structure for quite a while, and read research material about the time period, and then finally get in there. And what do they say? To write is to rewrite. Yeah.
Pretty cool. I know you get together with Ray and Robbie when you talk about Doors business. Do you people play at all?
Well, we played a couple of years ago at the Hall of Fame with Eddie Vedder. That was real fun. Let's see, Robbie played at the House of Blues here in Los Angeles half a year ago, something like that. And I went down and sat in on Light My Fire and a couple other songs. That was fun.
Must always be a treat for people.
Treat for me. Yeah.
I've got 2 albums by the Butts Band.
Oh, well, now that has been just reissued on CD.
Really?
On a small label called One Way Records.
Oh, yeah, they're doing a good job.
But the whole thing, both albums are on CD. Yeah, I'm kind of proud of that.
They're on one CD?
Yeah. It was sort of reggae before. We were in Jamaica recording, and the Wailers hadn't come to the States yet, so we really got a glimpse into what was coming, and so we were very influenced by that.
I remember because you did play in Boston at a...
Yeah.
It's now a mall.
Pardon me?
In Cambridge, Harvard Square.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Was that 73?
Well, I don't know exactly, Joe.
Bruce Botnick produced one of those albums.
Yes, he did. And he produced with us L.A. Woman.
Right. Which I think is an absolute masterpiece.
Oh, thanks very much. L.A. Woman was a breath of fresh air because we had made 5 albums with Paul Russ.